Kent Hovind and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland live March 23rd. Today is official Atheist Day. So, we're going to whack one. Just sweetly in Christian love. Where's her SpongeBob right here? Whack an Atheist, where we try to knock some sense into you atheists who believe this whole world came from nothing. We believe the Bible is true. God made everything in 6 days. So tonight, whack an Atheist with Dr. Kent, the science gent. I wear red typically to, bring them on. Come on, all of you, same time. Let's go. We believe dinosaurs always lived with man. The Bible says nothing died till Adam sinned. The Bible says God made everything in 6 days. Everything. Dinosaurs had to live with Adam and Eve. You guys are teaching kids dinosaurs lived millions of years ago are lying. Stop. They did not. Okay. Evolution is the most dangerous and the dumbest and most dangerous religious cult in the history of the world. It's a mental illness. When you believe you came from a rock, which you do believe, which the whole world, the whole universe came from a dot of nothing exploding. You are certifiably insane. We're here to help you. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland, 1 mile north of downtown Lenox, the roaring metropolis. Chris, I went through the other day, 3 cars in downtown Lenox at the same time. 2 of them sitting there for years, not broke down, but one of them. Okay. Come visit our Genesis Baptist Church. We whack an atheist. It's fun. No atheists are harmed in the making of these videos. Okay, we're trying to knock some sense into you. We're trying to see, even small children can see how stupid the evolution theory is. It is dumb, okay? So many atheists, so little time. We just keep whacking them back down or trying. Okay. Bible says the fool said in his heart, there's no God. Psalm 51, or Psalm 53, Psalm 14. We're doing it for your own good. We're trying to push you out of the way of a speeding car. Okay, we're really, you're going to thank me one day if you pay attention. So pay attention, boy. This is for your own good. Just imagine, humans and whales have a common ancestor. That's not science. That's imagination. Okay, debate coming up this Friday night with Ken Rock. Another one next Thursday with David Emery. There's Ken Rock and there's David Emery. What's that pink doll he's holding? Patrick, what? Oh, SpongeBob's friend, Patrick. Okay. I didn't know. I don't ever watch SpongeBob. Never mind. Okay. And then one coming up with Snake Was Right. When is that one? Oh, live? No, April 7th. I got Snake Was Right. Taylor Gray. Okay. You guys what is the evidence for evolution? We say there is none. Okay, none. Get our video series, 18 hours, $50 for the whole thing. You can return it and get your money back when you're done. Get 10 of them, give away to your friends for $300. Get my book and my video series on what on earth is about to happen. We're headed for trouble, folks. The tribulation is coming, maybe even started. 7-year tribulation, we shall see. I don't know. The worst moment for an atheist is when he feels profound sense of gratitude, has no one to thank. Good way to put it. Okay. We believe intelligent people can locate clay in the earth, mine it, and shape it into millions of things like pottery. The intelligent brain can take the clay and make pottery. I believe that. Make a coffee cup. My coffee cup probably made from clay taken out of the ground. But it's got orange juice in it. It'll still work for an orange juice cup. Okay. Intelligent people can locate iron ore in the earth and mine it out. Like on our property. We got a lot of iron ore here at Lenox, Alabama. Come down and see it. They can take that iron ore, smelt it down, and make steel. Then they can take the steel, roll it into sheets, or pound it into shapes they want, and make an automobile. But I don't believe the automobile can make itself, okay? The fact that people can take iron ore and make something out of iron does not prove the iron ore can make the car by itself. And the people can take the clay and make things like cups, but the cup can't make itself. And you atheists want to believe it made itself and leave God out. The Bible says God formed man of the dust of the ground. I believe that, okay? God can take dust and make man. That doesn't mean dust can make man by itself. So the textbooks teach that man evolved from a single-celled bacteria, creature like a bacteria, because of trillions of mutations. There it is, the origin of life, a bacteria. Now, Pelagia, your turn. Get your helmet on, son, okay? This is the image, Pelagia, muscles, and deep voice that he wants all to imagine as him. This is the real Pelagia. Now, will this thing automatically play the audio that... Tell us a little bit about yourself before you start.
Sure. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Apologia, and I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden...
Anybody seem like he made his voice deeper and added a bunch of muscles on himself? Let's try that again here. Let's see. How do I... Try? There we go.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before you start.
Sure. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Apologia, and I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden star of the young Earth creation movement back in the era of VHS tapes. And I'm a former Christian. Golden star of the young Earth creation movement back in the era of VHS tapes.
Seems to me like he added a few muscles and deepened the voice a little bit. That's okay, Pologia. We understand completely. Okay, let's see. There we go. He imagines that he's loaded with muscles. He imagines he has a deep authoritative voice. He imagines that the minor variations we all see in any kind of plant or animal is proof that all life forms are related. Pure imagination, Pologia. Evolution is a process of gradual change that takes place over many generations, during which species of animals, plants, or insects slowly change some of their physical characteristics. He said in what he wants to call the debate with me, let me find that here. Is this it? Yep, okay. Let's just let him talk for a minute. Rock and Atheist Wednesday with Dr. Kent the Science Guy.
It's a nice t-shirt.
Oh, thanks. I got it at my church.
Where I wear red typically to, just,
It's Jesus shooting Charles Darwin.
well, like the bull.
Why would Jesus want to shoot Charles Darwin?
Because of his blasphemous theories.
Okay, speaking of bull, we're going to cover that tonight. By the way, I'm playing the first probably 8 or 10 minutes of Pologia's video where he said, if I debated Kent Hovind, then this is what he'd want to do. Okay, you're on. Fair enough.
Kent Hovind was once a golden star of the young Earth creation movement back in the era of VHS tapes.
Your videos, he brought me in a big box. This was before DVDs even.
Right,
so
right.
A big giant box of VHS tapes.
But back from returning from his involuntary hiatus, Kent has not been able to recapture mainline church relevance in the second half of his career. Acceptance of biological evolution among mainline believers has increased, and the remaining holdout congregations are turning instead to better funded, highly polished, more respectable organizations like Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research, or even Kent's son Eric for their conference speakers and Bible study curriculum. Hampered with travel restrictions, first of personal legal nature and then of global health nature, Kent has pivoted to focus his efforts on his Dinosaur Adventureland property near Lenox, Alabama, and his near-daily YouTube videos. Given the number of people subscribed to Kent's 2 YouTube channels, the count of those actually watching is shockingly low and dwindling fast. If the comments are any indication, those soldiering on with him fall into 2 camps: the fanatic faithful and the masochistic hate watchers, tuning in primarily for drama and a cheap laugh.
It's amazing. As soon as one of ours goes up, we get a bunch of dislikes and thumbs down. We got plenty of trolls on our channel. Doesn't bother me.
Undeterred, 69-year-old Hovind
They're nice.
seems to have his eyes set on a legacy of quantity over quality. Even at his recent pace, the record for most wives is probably out of reach. But what about most debates?
I have now done 220 debates. I'm catching up. I'm going to try to. Gish is one of my heroes. He did 300 debates and lived to be 92. I decided I'm going to beat that or die trying.
Kent is not on a truth quest or even a conversion evangelical quest.
Several debates coming up, 5 this month altogether. I'll take on 100 more. Bring them on, guys.
He's merely looking for notches on his debate belt.
Pologia, you are simply mistaken. We are focused here on getting people saved, getting people prepared to go to the kingdom of heaven, and that's the focus of our ministry. The debates are simply to shut idiots like you who believe they came from a rock up. Okay?
And there's another notch on your belt.
A man who will do anything for one more victory notch on his belt, no matter what the cost, before he fades away.
He's even so transparent as to use the debate number in his video descriptions and on-screen calendar. When I've been watching the old man with no standards hit on literally every person in the bar,
She's the village bicycle. Everyone's had a ride.
it's difficult to take a personalized debate challenge from Kent as much of a compliment. But several have been extended to me.
And Paul, I'll debate you anytime live. Anytime. How many times have you debated or talked about Pologia?
I've never really debated Pologia. I've done a video on him.
I'd be glad to. Anytime.
Yeah.
Hey, bring it on.
So why haven't I accepted these challenges?
Great question. Let's hear it, Pologia. Great question. By the way, I'll extend it again tonight. Call me, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. My phone's charging.
It's not because I'm scared.
You are. Yes, you are. Yeah, we know that, but that's okay.
A coward. C-O-W-A-R-D. Coward. A chicken. A lily-livered frog.
I'm very much not afraid. Unfortunately, before we go on, I do need to make this disclaimer. While it has absolutely no bearing on the veracity of his science-related claims, and while I value free speech and the open market of ideas, Kent Hovind is currently convicted of some serious charges, with an appeal withstanding. Others may make other choices, but I would need that matter resolved before I personally would be willing to share a virtual or physical stage with him.
You've got to be kidding, Pelagia. You have no clue what you're talking about, okay? We won't get into all that. Chris, is this coward's way out?
It is.
Canadian. You're a Marine. Yeah. You ever have to fight alongside Canadians like this?
No.
No, thank goodness. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
But we're setting that aside for today's hypothetical question.
Right. That's why you brought it up, right, Pelagia? You're going to set it aside. Okay, go ahead.
What would it take for Pelagia to debate a name-cleared Kent Hovind? Well, it recently dawned on me why Kent Hovind debates are so frustrating and pointless.
Oh, they're frustrating because you guys are wrong and I'm right, okay? They're not pointless. They make the point really well.
Kent and his opponents are never actually debating the same topic. The most important thing one can do before a debate is to come to agreement with your opponent in advance on the definitions of the key words or phrases in the debate topics.
Fair
If
enough.
the interlocutors don't agree on definitions, what they're actually debating is the definition and not the merits of the proposition. And definition debates are generally a waste of everyone's time, to everyone but the most pedantic among us. For example, when I agreed to debate Sean McDowell on Apostle Martyrs on the Unbelievable show, we first had a several email back and forth exchange, agreeing to some definitions, like the word apostle, and laying out some basic stipulations, like the existence of historical Jesus and the approximate dating of the Gospels, to keep the conversation focused, on track, and hopefully useful to the audience. Now, imagine that Kent Hovind and I were debating the topic, does Christianity harm society? And throughout the discussion, I defined Christianity as a cannibalism cult and would not back down from this. Kent would naturally point out that he defines Christianity differently, but rather than yield to his common usage, I would instead obstinately point to some out-of-context verses and staunchly refuse to discuss anything but the cannibalism cult that I imagine Christianity to be. Would such a debate be useful to anyone? No. No, it would not. So why then would anyone expect a useful debate with Kent Hovind on the topic of evolution when no one on the planet who advocates for biological evolution would agree with Kent's definition of evolution? The debate is rendered useless before it's begun, because at no point are the two opponents ever discussing the same thing in the same way. So, Kent famously has specific demands for any debate.
Equal time, one topic at a time, and no interrupting. Equal time, one topic at a time. Equal time. And one topic at a time. One topic at a time, no cursing and swearing.
Obviously, I have no problem with those. Equal time, one topic at a time, and I generally don't curse. But Kent would also need to stipulate to my terms. First and foremost, and I am of the strong opinion that henceforth, no human should grant Kent a debate without demanding this, that prior to the debate, Kent provide, articulate, and unwaveringly agree to a definition of biological evolution that would generally be endorsed by biologists who affirm the theory. We know that Kent won't believe it, and that's just fine.
You can study all that stuff, and when it comes time for the test, the teacher says, how old is the Earth? You can say, the textbook says 4.62937 billion years old. However, this is not correct. They know you did your homework, you studied it, you memorized it, you regurgitated it for the test, but you don't believe it.
Just like he advises school children, Kent just needs to demonstrate that he understands it, and will be debating the actual theory. If Kent's case against evolution is so strong, then he should happily agree to challenge the most rigorous and most accurate version of evolution. If you won't agree to this, then he's admitting in advance that his arguments are against a straw man parody of his own making, and that he has no case against the actual theorem. Now, if Kent has been so brainwashed by his own decades of rhetoric that he can't come up with such a definition himself, I would happily allow him to consult college-level biology textbooks actively in use today in mainstream secular universities and written in the last 20 years. Nothing from grade school, nothing from before the year 2002. The debate would open by Kent reading the pre-agreed definition and affirming that he will not waver from this definition at any point in the conversation under penalty of forfeit. If I were debating Kent on the merits of creationism, I would expect to be held to Kent's definition of creationism. Following the definitional lead of the affirmative side is the best path to actual productive comparison. To reiterate, Stipulation 1 is agreeing in advance to definitions of the key terms, particularly the word evolution.
Okay. He's going to go to stipulation number 2 in a minute, but let me go answer this, Paul. Let's see. Here we go. And come over here. Click on this screen or something. Right. Okay. What is the definition for the term evolution? Downloaded today off the internet. I don't know when Stanford University put it up there, but okay. Evolution is defined as any net directional change or any cumulative change in the characteristics of organisms or populations over many generations. In other words, descent with modification. It explicitly includes the origin as well as the spread of alleles, variants, trait values, and character traits. Pelagia, I'm assuming you would agree with Stanford University. Let's see, that's their definition. Allele is a short form of the word coined by the British geneticists used in early days of genetics to describe a variant form, a variety. For instance, there are yellow ladybugs and red ladybugs. They have different allele, okay? Allele frequency, okay? How are alleles created? New alleles can be formed as a result of mutations. It is the ultimate source. Something is mutated, got a new allele. Okay, let's see. The genetic drift, the founder effect. Let's see. Gene frequency change due to a few individuals starting an isolated population. Founders carry some, but not all, alleles of the original gene pool. So a red ladybug gets blown over to an island, and now you got a whole population of red ladybugs. That happens, I guess. I mean, I would go along with that, all right? So I collect biology textbooks. I don't know if I have any college biology textbooks from the last couple of years. I got quite a few college and high school biology textbooks, but definition. They say life has evolved on Earth. Now, this is what bothers Pelagia, and I'm going to show you why. And then, Pelagia, I'm going to grant your wish. Get ready, okay? Get ready to blow out the candle. I've said for many years the word evolution has 6 different meanings, only one of which is scientific. And you don't want to talk about most of them. I understand why completely. Cosmic evolution would be the origin of time, space, matter. You want to start once life gets started and then talk about evolution. Well, you got to have something to evolve. Where did it evolve? Where's the space, time, energy, matter come from? Cosmic evolution matters. It's all over the internet. Type in cosmic evolution. You have to have something to start with. Where did matter come from? Then you have to have chemical evolution, because the Big Bang supposedly produced hydrogen and maybe a little bit of helium and some lithium. Let's see. In the beginning, at least following the Big Bang 14 billion years ago, there was hydrogen, some helium, and a little bit of lithium. Okay. I think that's stupid, but I'll give you that, all right? Well then, how do you get all the other elements? Origin of the elements. Approximately 73% of the mass of the visible universe is in the form of hydrogen. Helium is 25% of the mass. Everything else is only 2%. Well, okay. How do you go to iron, gold, silver, platinum, uranium from hydrogen gas? The low mass elements, hydrogen and helium, were produced in the hot, dense conditions of the birth of the universe itself. The birth, life, and death of a star is described in terms of nuclear reactions. 15 billion years ago, the universe began and is extremely hot and dense. You know, it's interesting to read the old science books. They used to say 20 billion years ago. This one says 15. Now they say 13.772. None of them are right, but I think it's funny to see how they change it all the time. What's a few billion? They ought to run for government. Okay. In the equation, well, you can read all about this here. Quarks and electrons had only a fleeting existence as a plasma because the annihilation removed them as fast as they were created. Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Here we go. The third theory of life's origin is chemical evolution. In this idea, pre-biological changes slowly transform simple atoms and molecules into more complex chemicals. Pelagia, you have to have chemical evolution. The chemicals have to evolve. Chemical evolution. Google it. It's all over the internet. There's a lot about that. See, you say your Big Bang produced hydrogen and maybe some helium. I think anybody who had any chemistry knows you can't do fusion past iron. How are you going to get these heavier elements? They exist. I bet you got some in your own body. So but you don't want to talk about chemical evolution. I understand why. Iron cannot be fused into anything heavier because of the insane amounts of energy and force required to fuse iron atoms. The iron in a star's core isn't the reason why the star went supernova. Its overall mass may explode, but the iron in its core caused it to die. So how are you going to fuse past iron, Pelagia? I know you don't want to talk about chemical evolution. I just thought I'd throw that out. I know why you don't want to talk about it, okay? But it's part of the theory. Or else you have nothing to discuss. Then you have to have stellar and planetary evolution. The stars have to evolve. And Google it, stellar evolution. The process by which a star changes over the course of time. Where did all the stars come from and the planets? They have to come from somewhere. You got a big bang of nothing exploding, producing hydrogen and helium. Then it has to evolve all the chemicals. Then it has to make the stars. This is all imagination. Stellar evolution. In the form of these fuel consumption stages and their finality, you can read all about stellar evolution yourself. Okay? Let's see. The silent embarrassment of modern astrophysics is we do not know how a single one of these stars managed to form. Nobody's ever seen a star form. Why do stars evolve? Michigan University. Stellar evolution, the birth, life, and death of a star. It's all imagination coming from a cloud of dust. This is pure imagination. We could debate that if you'd like, Pelagia. This has never been observed of a gas turning to a solid by the gravity pulling the particles together. It's imagination. Typical star exists for billions of years. Astronomers study stars at different stages of their life. Okay. The origin of stars is an unsolved problem. Back 30 years ago, it's still an unsolved problem. 3 years ago here? Stars are formed in giant clouds of dust and gas. You are dreaming. No one understands how a star formation proceeds. It's remarkable. They imagine that it happens. It's just imagination. Every 30 years, a star is observed exploding. It's called a nova or a supernova. How many stars are there in the universe? Boy, it's a great question. Because the universe was born here 13.8 billion years ago, we can only observe objects up to a certain distance. Light from more distant objects hasn't had time to reach us yet. And the answer, how many stars are there? We must limit the discussion to what we can observe. 70 sextillion stars is the current estimate. 70 sextillion. That's a bunch, okay? 3 times as much as earlier estimates, but even this is probably still an underestimate. See, the Bible says God made the stars, just a couple words in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth, and he made the stars also. Oof. It's no big deal for my God that I worship, okay? God said, Abraham, look toward the heaven. See if you can count the stars. He said, I can't count them, Lord. He said, that's how your kids are going to be. Nobody's ever been able to count how many Jews and Arabs there are in the world, descendants of Abraham. Estimated 70 sextillion stars, maybe 3 times more than that, in the universe. That's enough for everybody on earth to own 11 trillion of them to yourself. Each person can own 11 trillion stars. So if there's truly 70 sextillion stars and the universe is 13.7 billion years old, we should see 9.7 million new stars forming every minute. Nobody's ever seen one form. But you don't want to talk about stellar evolution, and I know why. Then there's organic evolution, the origin of life. Have scientists made life in the laboratory? If we look at the simplest creatures on the planet, we find a wee bacterium. Okay, let's start with a bacterium. You think that's simple? That lives happily in the digestive tract of cows and goats. It's only got 525 genes. It's one of the simplest life forms we've ever seen. The simplest life form is more complex than the space shuttle. A single bacteria, more complex than the space shuttle. Bacteria are more complex, capable of complex decision-making than thought. Summary, it's not thinking in what human ways, dogs or even birds think, but new findings show bacteria are more capable of complex decision-making than previously known. Just how simple are bacteria? Not simple at all. Frank Sherwin's a good friend of mine, ICR. Tell him I said hi. A new theory on organic evolution. The purpose of the work of this author is to test the common sense that Huxley says is science, whether the Darwinian doctrine, that is the evolution of life on our planet, was brought about by natural selection. Theories of organic evolution. Pelagia, This is certainly part of your theory. You have to have life get started. But you want to start with life, and I understand why. And we're going to do that. I'll still debate you. Nobody knows how lifeless chemicals spontaneously organize themselves to a first living cell. Nobody knows how they did that. They say it started in the primordial soup. A term introduced by the Soviet biologist Oparin, 1924, he proposed a theory of the origin of life, that it came gradual chemical evolution of particles that can primordial soup, really. Primordial soup, you can Google it. Yep, we all came from soup. Primordial soup. The Earth had a chemically reducing atmosphere. Not true, but that's what they start off with. This atmosphere exposed to energy, like sunlight hitting it, created polymers. And ultimately life developed in the soup. This is what they teach. It was once thought that appreciable amounts of molecular oxygen were present in the prebiotic atmosphere. Most important pieces of experimental support for the soup theory came in 1953. That's the year I was born, when Miller and Urey performed an experiment that demonstrated how organic molecules could have spontaneously formed from inorganic precursors under conditions like those they postulated. I see. This provided direct evidence to support the second point of the soup theory. You can read all about prebiotic soup, but the origin of life is, you have to have that, Paul. I don't know how you're going to get around that, but you don't want to talk about that, and I know why, okay? Nobody's ever been able to demonstrate how non-living material can come alive. You imagine that. This coffee cup can be made by humans from clay from the ground. The coffee cup cannot make itself. This body can be made by an infinite, all-wise God. Can't make itself. Miller experiment produced many substances that would undergo cross reactions. They can read about that. It really would have destroyed itself. It could not have produced life. Evolution encompasses a wide range of phenomena: emergence of major lineages, mass extinctions, evolution of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. However, within the field of evolutionary biology, the origin of life is of special interest. Berkeley University. You have to have life get started somehow, Paul. Come on now. I know you want to bypass that. I know why. I'll show you why in a minute. Many lines of evidence help illuminate the origin of life. Fossils. Fossils that tell about the origin of life, really. Radiometric dating is going to tell you how life got started? You guys are insane. Let's see. They do not represent a change in the basis of evolutionary theory from Berkeley University. Let's see. Here you can learn about important hypotheses regarding when, where, and how life originated. It is part of the evolution theory. The first Earth was formed from a solid ball of molten rock with no atmosphere. As Earth began to cool and the crust and mantle began to harden, material from their inner regions would sometimes erupt through the surface. The molten ball cooled some 4 billion years ago. The outside hardened and formed a crust. I think I'm reading this accurately. The Earth was a hot ball of rock. It cooled down and developed a rocky crust. Okay? 4.1 billion years ago, the Earth's surface or crust began to cool and stabilize, creating a solid surface. And then clouds formed and it rained on the rocks for millions of years, right? Just as species are believed to have evolved over time, the individual molecules that form the basis of life also likely developed in response to natural selection. Life on Earth first bloomed 3.7 billion years ago. Compounds in a primordial soup somehow sparked to life. By studying the evolution of not just life, but life's building blocks, we hope to come closer to the answer. The molecules swimming in early Earth's primordial soup would have been continually destroyed by ultraviolet radiation from the sun, as pairs of molecules combined form a larger compound. Sometimes came out with protection that neither alone had. They get together and protect themselves from the mean old sun. Right. Of course, if life arose in deep sea hydrothermal vents, that would explain it. So the origin of life had to take place down deep in the ocean. Couldn't happen on the surface. Because, let's see, concentration of organic, I want to get to something else here. Let me skip this. You can read it for yourself. This has been taught for years. Yes, Pelagia, they do have 4 parts to the evolution theory that you don't want to talk about, okay? The origin of life has not been explained. The mystery of the origin of life. Nobody's been able to explain how life got started. God said, let there be living creatures. God created living creatures. This is the first chapter. God made the winged fowls. God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature. God made the beast of the earth, and everything that creepeth upon the earth. God created man in his own image. God saw everything was good, very good. I believe that. I don't think there's another logical explanation. The Lord formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. I believe that. Now, I can't prove that. I'm not asking everybody to pay for that to be taught. You guys are making everybody pay for your religion to be taught. Deuteronomy, see now that I am he. There is no God with me. I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Thou alone art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven with all their host, the earth, and all that is therein. I believe that. God made the world and all things therein. I believe that. He giveth to all life and breath and all things. I believe that. In the sight of God who quickeneth, that means come alive, all things. You cut your finger down into the quick. That's the live part, right? So have scientists made life in the lab? Nowhere close. If they did, it would only prove it takes intelligence to make life. God claims clearly that he created life, and until scientists can prove life was formed by chance without God, they should admit this is a vital step in evolution, and it's believed to have happened. They should admit it is a religion and not allow it to be taught publicly in funded schools. Paul, you want to debate, but you want to leave off these first four definitions. Okay, then help me get those first four things out of the textbooks in schools, because that's where they teach it. They should start off with living material. Well, teacher, how do they get it? We can't talk about that. But no, they do talk about it, and the books talk about it. So, first four you don't want to talk about. Most evolutionists, including Paulogia, want to pretend that these first four stages are not part of the evolution theory, but they are essential. You got to have them. Imagine, we took a journey to the center of the earth. What would we find? What would we eat? Would we find dinosaurs? You can imagine all you want, Paul. These first four stages are essential to your theory. You say they're not part of evolution. Yes, they are. You only want to focus attention on changes once life starts. Okay? Let's start with life. Then you got to have macroevolution. Now, Paul, just for you, I'm going to give you a bacteria to start with. Oh, good. Sorry about that. Computer glitch here. Okay, so just for you, Paul, we're going to give you a bacteria. I'll give you 20 of them. Is that enough? 20. I'll give you 100 bacteria to start with. There we go. Tree of life. Stephen Bloom, a dentist and writer and engineer, said, a single human cell, like a skin cell or a liver cell, is far more complex than the space shuttle or than a nuclear submarine. Even more astounding is the fact that the billions of biochemical molecules inside cells act like incredibly intelligent beings with eyes, swim fins, and a brain. They just know where to go, just what to do, and when they do it, they do their thing in incredibly fast motion. Let's see, the system that synthesizes proteins is unbelievably complex. Yet 2,000 protein molecules are synthesized every second in every cell of your body, 24/7. If you could enlarge a cell to the size of a basketball, if you could open it up and watch, you would see a constant and endless blur of activity. Each cell, more complicated than a nuclear submarine, Paul. I'm going to give you 20 of them, all right? Just for you. We'll give you bacteria, origin of life. The textbook certainly showed charts like this. They drew lines on paper. Let's see, here we have, well, the shark is connected to the seaweed. Yeah, and the octopus, there it is, and the snail. Wow, they're all connected. What evidence do you have, Paul, for any life form? I'm going to start with life, like you want for the debate. I'd like to see the evidence you have wow, starting with bacteria, ending up with vertebrates, that would include humans, including starfish, wow, pine trees, mushrooms. There's a fungus among us. Look at that. Okay. The tree of life. What evidence do you have for this, Paul? That's what the debate will be about. We'll skip the first four just for you. I'm going to give you a bacteria. How do you get from a bacteria to, let's see, a human or a snail or sponges? How do you do this? What evidence do you have for any life form ever producing anything other than its kind? That's what God said would happen. Here we got the humans are related to the chickens, and look at the frogs. Clear back to the common ancestor, the bacteria. Drawing lines on paper is not evidence that it happened. That's all they do, though. They put these trees of life in the textbooks. That's my complaint. Stop lying to the kids. None of this is science. There's 300 kinds of chickens now. Okay, there's still a chicken. Produce a non-chicken for me from a chicken. Let's see it. Or a non-dog. Get all the dogs in the world, crossbreed them all you want, make a non-dog. Okay? Macroevolution. Major changes in structures and ways of life over tens of millions of years. Pure imagination. Okay? Macroevolution. The vague term for the evolution of great phenotypic changes, usually great enough to put the lineage into a distinct genus or higher taxon. This is imagination. It doesn't happen. Okay? Nope. Right. Well, here. I want to go back to Paul here. We'll have to boot him back up, or should it play? All right. Here's your stipulation number 2.
I don't expect Kent to ever in 6,000 years agree to this.
So, didn't have to wait 6,000. I agree. We'll skip the first 4, Paul, just for you. I'm going to give you 25 bacteria. Make an elephant.
The rest of this may be academic, but I'd personally add a few more for the sake of efficiency.
Okay.
Stipulation 2 would be a bit of a give on my part. For the sake of argument, the debate would assume that a personal deity was the creator of the first replicating molecules of life from non-life. I would agree, for the sake of the debate, to a designer.
And I'm going to give you self-replicating molecules, 25 of them. Should I give him 30? All right, 30 bacteria. Paul, go ahead.
This would accomplish several things. It would appropriately keep abiogenesis and anything prior out of the debate.
And I know why, Paul. Anybody else know why he wants to keep that out of the debate? Because it doesn't happen. It's not science, and you know it. But I'm going to, just for you, first 4, we won't talk about them. I may mention in the comments later that you couldn't handle those 4, could you? Nobody can. Nobody can. But I'm going to give you 35 bacteria. Yeah, okay.
Since biological evolution does not speak to it, making it a red herring.
Oh, no. Biological evolution, you have nothing to evolve. If you don't have the first 4 stages, where did you get these things to evolve from, Paul? You don't have a good theory. You have a religious belief, and you should admit that.
It would also keep the focus on the actual evidence. How?
I'm ready. Focus on the actual evidence of how you turned a bacteria to an elephant. I would like to see that. I'd like to see that. Show me how it happened.
It was done, not who did it. It would also remove any motivation-assuming attacks, which are entirely non-helpful in a debate.
Oh, that's why you brought up all the stuff about me going to prison and having an ankle monitor. Yeah, I understand, Paul. Why can't they say this is designed? Because that means there's a designer. Very simple. They don't want there to be a designer because they don't want him telling them what to do.
And the final stipulation would be that I'm not here to debate or discuss what's published in textbooks or taught in classrooms.
AJ, have you spent 3 seconds trying to get this lie out of the textbook? Then help me get that out of the textbooks, because it is in the textbooks.
First, I'm Canadian, so my influence on the American education system is negligible anyhow.
Paul, I have some Canadian textbooks in my collection. It's in your textbooks too. And you love it. You intend to keep all the Big Bang stuff in there, don't you? You would never try to get that out, even though you don't want it in the debate. Why don't you get it out of the textbooks, Paul? Those first 4, come on. Origin of life, never been demonstrated. Why don't you get that out of the books in your Canadian system up there?
But more importantly, I'm sure Kent would agree that what is or isn't taught has no bearing at all on what's true.
Well, I think it's important that kids be taught the truth. You don't think, what if your schools were teaching 2 + 2 is 5 and messing the kids up from kindergarten on? Don't you think that would be hard on the rest of their education? If you start off lying to them in kindergarten, first grade, and say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, you start off lying to them like that, I think it is important. But for you, we're going to skip it, Paul. Call 855-BIG-DINO. I don't have my phone. Extension 3. I'll schedule you a debate soon as possible. We could even do, would you guys, tech guys, come in and film it if we couldn't do it at 7 o'clock because we're tied up? We could do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, anytime, Paul. Please, call.
That's it. Pretty easy, right? After Kent clears his name, we have 3 rules from him.
Wait, after I clear my name? Oh, he's talking about the Cindy thing? Oh, brother, you coward. There's nothing going on there. It's going to be fine, okay? Just come on. Call for the debate, Paul. 855-BIG-DINO, please.
Equal time, 1 topic at a time, no cursing, and 3 rules from me. Agree in advance on definitions to be used in the debate, including the definition of evolution. Both stipulate, for the sake of the debate, that life has a designer, and schools, taxes, and textbooks are irrelevant to the discussion.
Fair enough. What's the evidence for evolution of any animal? We're going to start with bacteria. How do you get from a single-celled bacteria to any other kind of animal, and where's the scientific evidence? How long have they been trying to do that in the laboratory and can't do it? But you think it happened by itself? Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take your stipulations, Paul. Call 855-BIG-DINO.
But here, in Kent's latest personalized challenge to me, he added some extra notes.
I'll debate Pelagia any day, won't I? Pelagia, come on. And this time, let's see the real you, not the cartoon character with the muscles, okay?
If a debate between us were to ever happen, I'd definitely be on camera, as I am for all my debates, live appearances, and call-in shows.
Without the muscles? Okay.
So no worries there. I'm not sure why the cartoon bothers you so.
It doesn't bother me. I think it ought to bother you that you have to do that. You make yourself into a... This is me. I'm live all the time. I don't deepen my voice either to make me sound more authoritative. I think it's funny. Go ahead.
I'd be perfectly willing to let you use the idea.
I've never drawn a cartoon of me in my life. I wouldn't know how to do it. Somebody sent that to me, and I stuck it in my seminar series. I'm sorry it bothers you. I'll remove it for this debate if it helps, okay? Somebody else did that.
Realized Kent Hovind cartoon that you use in your presentation.
Call me, 855-BIG-DINO, Pelagia. Open challenge. When you want to debate again.
Again? We've never debated a first time. With so many debates and whackings, it's no surprise that the details are a bit of a blur for Kent.
Thank you. It is a blur, okay? Life is a blur. Here we keep busy. And I'm sorry if I said debate you again. Remove that, okay? I'll debate you. Anytime. As many times as you want. Schedule 20 in a row. I want to see the evidence you've got for evolution. Bring it on.
No worries. But let's pay careful attention to the proposed debate format.
You start off, give the best evidence you know of for evolution. I'll counter that. Then you give best evidence number 2. I'll counter that.
Okay. So I'm supposed to present something. Kent gets a turn to counter that. I get no time to counter the counter.
Okay. Pelagia, just for you, we'll go take 1 point, the best evidence for evolution, and discuss it back and forth all night. You give the best evidence, I'll explain how stupid it is, then you can explain where I'm wrong, and then I'll explain where you're wrong. We'll take just 1 point. When you're sick of that one, then you can go on to number 2, okay? Good point you made here, and we can go back and forth on just 1 point as many times as you'd like. Where is the evidence of a bacteria ever producing anything other than a bacteria? I want scientific evidence, something you can document, not imagination.
Or ask follow-up questions.
You can ask all the follow-up questions you want. Point number 1, what is the best evidence you have, Pelagia? Just 1, for evolution.
Or say anything, really. I'm supposed to just move on to my next slide.
No, I'm going to let you talk back and forth on that one much as you want. No problem.
That's not a debate. What you're describing is a lecture, but with built-in time for unmoderated heckling from the audience.
If you don't mind, I'll do the jokes.
We don't mind, but when are you going to do them?
Fair enough. Come on. My channel, your channel, both channels, neutral channel. Come on, Pelagia. You brave warrior.
I mean, for the format Kent proposes, there's no reason I'd even need to be present.
I will refrain. Pelagia, call 855-BIG-DINO, schedule a debate. You give the best evidence for evolution. I'll explain why it's not. You go back and say, yes, it is, and tell me why I'm wrong, and we'll go back and forth on just that one until you want to move on. How's that? Fair enough? The real you, no voice deepening, and no cartoon characters with the muscles. The real you and the real me. We can do it on my channel, your channel, standing for truth. How's that one? Any questions or comments?
No.
None in there? We got
No, I've been reading them.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to help strengthen you. We believe the Bible is true. Paul, you're going to believe it one of these days. It's true. You claim you lost your Christianity or left. I don't know if you ever had the real one or not, but the Lord loves you, and He'd like to see you become one of His children. Get into this family. Okay? No questions here? Yes, sir.
So we came from bacteria, according to the evolutionists, but when did it happen that we came from apes? They say we evolved from apes.
Oh, from apes?
Yeah,
What,
so how long did that take, and then how long did it take?
Well, he's got to start with the bacteria and develop the elephant, the ape, the human. I want to see, has anybody ever seen an ape produce a non-ape? Has anybody ever seen a human produce a non-human?
Not only that, they say we evolved from apes, but there's not one single living half ape, half human. Exactly.
And why don't they do it again?
There's no sense
Hey,
whatsoever.
the apes, the monkeys, chimpanzees, they're all still having babies. Do it again. Why doesn't anybody ever see it? Nobody ever sees a cow produce a non-cow. You imagine the cow came from a bacteria. I can show you your charts here. Let's see, where did we go here? Oh, there we go. Go back, there we go. Do they teach on this tree of life right here? Tree of life. They don't have a cow on that one, do they? Cow, no. Well, they got the dog and the starfish. Yeah, coming from a mold, coming from a common ancestor. Surely somebody's got a cow on here. Let's see, we got a cow anywhere? I bet it's on there. Yeah, well, hippopotamus, whale, camel, horse. You guys believe a cow came from bacteria, don't you, Paul? Listen, you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. Where's the science for that? Show it. Call the debate. Call for the debate. 855-BIG-DINO. Challenge accepted. We will leave out the first four. Good. Any questions, comments? Done.